There is an indefinable, mysterious power that pervades everything. That power that can make a way out of no way.
Today, in the world, there's so much suffering because of that one of prayer.
Welcome to the main event.
Live from New York City, I'm Doyal, and I'm here with the Prayer Revolution, my good friend Vira, tuning in all the way from Alachua, Florida. And we're glad that you're here and joining us. We say a morning prayer every day at this time, and then we take a half an hour to discuss what it means to bring the mood of prayer into our daily lives, because oftentimes I'm forgetful of my true identity as an eternal spirit soul. And when I forget that, all kinds of problems come into place. I think I'm a man, a woman, a this, a that, a tall, short, ugly, beautiful, successful, failure, rich, poor, and all of these designations come onto myself, and I suffer because of them, or there's problems that are associated with those identities. And so when I get a new perspective and I remember my eternal identity as something beyond all of that, I get a new perspective. I get a new perspective for how to approach every element of my life. And so we just remind ourselves, just a little short, quick reminder every day, because we could use it, because I forget a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we turn it over to Vira, who leads us in that sweet little prayer, and then we go from there. Say a prayer and go from there. That's our motto.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Doyal. Thank you for welcoming all of us and creating the safe space. I had a dream of Laura Zales last night, and we met, and she was giving us some loving. It was like literally we were walking past each other, and she like was dropping parenting wisdom bombs on Deanna and I. It's like magic, magic wisdom, upgrading our consciousness in our dream state. So thank you, Laura.
Did you guys talk yesterday or something, or?
No, we didn't. No, it was just, I was blessed. I was blessed last night to meet Laura in my dreams.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you for showing up.
Yeah.
I hope you're okay with that.
Super grateful to be with you guys today, and looking forward to taking these next few moments to dive into what's most meaningful to us, our spiritual intention, something that will center us throughout the moments to follow and the day to follow. And so those of us that are joining in, go ahead and take a nice deep breath. Let's keep breathing like that. Nice deep inhales and exhales. Letting go of anything that you're doing right now. Just taking these moments to pause and to reconnect to yourself and to reconnect to your higher power. My dear Lord, please help us to live our life in integrity. Please help us to come from a place of love and kindness, even when in our heart and our mind, we feel it's not possible, feel that we're not capable of actually entering into that space. Please help us to see that those moments that test us in life, those moments that challenge us, are moments and opportunities where we can transform our consciousness, where we can see that the capacity that we thought we were limited to is broken through, that we actually recognize that we're limitless in our ability to express love, kindness, and service in each moment of our life. Sometimes those clouds will come throughout our consciousness, throughout our mind, and will block us from feeling that limitless potential that each of us have, that limitless potential to love, to experience love in this moment right now, to experience our connection with you. And please shine your light. Let your light shine on us today, and so we may see ourselves more purely, more clearly. We may follow you more nearly. Day by day, we may come closer and closer to you and to awakening our pure spiritual potential, awakening that limitless potential to serve in the most empowering way in each moment of our life. And we call out your names each day. We call them out to help us to connect that limitless potential, to help us to recognize our true nature, our true spiritual nature beyond all the coverings beyond the ego, beyond the body, beyond the mind, and call out your name in order to help us to reconnect to what's eternal, to what's true. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much, Vera. Appreciate it.
Mm.
How you doing? How's your mind and heart doing this morning?
Doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. I had an opportunity this morning. I got a real early opportunity to practice humility and tolerance and patience, and reflecting on that.
Oh, you got our attention real quick. We're ready.
So anyway, so you know that there was that, and then it's interested to hear how you're doing.
You got our attention, brother. How are you practicing humility? What are the challenges and hiccups you're experiencing in your life? We want to hear them.
All right, cool. All right. Well, what I would say is that DG, you went mute on Zoom, just FYI.
I did, and I unmute it when I'm speaking, just because there's like some construction or something going on outside my window, and there's noise coming in. I'm still in New York City, and as quiet as it is around here, it's still New York City, and so
yeah,
there's noises coming in and out. So
cool, no problem. So on Wednesday, Deanna and I were speaking in our relationships podcast about how to handle broken agreements, and if we've broken an agreement with somebody, how do we handle that? And I got a great opportunity.
Cut them out from your life eternally. No.
All right. Well, that's option one. I see.
Maybe
that's nodding over there.
Maybe that's just what us Scorpios do.
Okay, you sting them as hard as you can and kick them out the door. So what happens when we've broken an agreement and we want to amend that agreement? The relationship is valuable enough that we want to come to a place of clearing that. And so today, it's great relationship content for Deanna's and my podcast, and so we'll probably end up picking up on it next Wednesday a little bit more in detail. But what happened yesterday was I had an agreement with Deanna to come back by a certain time to come home, and I wasn't able to keep that agreement. And what we're talking about on Wednesday is a broken agreement doesn't equal. Keeping an agreement doesn't equal a broken agreement plus a good story. You guys all get that one?
Say it again. Hit us again.
Okay, so keeping an agreement does not equal a broken agreement plus a really good story. Doesn't equal that. And there's a lot of details. We could go into so many details of that. We're not going to go into that today.
What if it's a really, really good story?
It's exactly. And so there are some very, very good stories that definitely don't equal keeping an agreement. That still doesn't equal keeping an agreement.
Does the story have to be true?
It's important if you want to build trust, not to tell lies. Yes,
okay. I should listen to this. I should listen to this podcast of yours.
Okay, all right. It's up there. It should be on SoundCloud. You're running the show, so you know where it's at. So there's right. Even if you save somebody's life, it still doesn't equal keeping an agreement. It's not an equal, right? So we just accept that, right? And the story may be so. It may have been such an important thing that the person would be able to understand it in context. They'd say, okay, wow, you saved somebody's life. Okay, I get it. You're 15 minutes late, no problem. Like, let's not go, any further into this. It still doesn't equal a kept agreement. So that's
I involved in your story of your broken agreement? Was it me? Was it when you were talking to me that one day?
It has nothing to do with you. No.
You can blame it on me. Blame it on me, dude. I'll be your scapegoat. Just blame it on me.
Okay.
Throw me under the bus.
Yeah, Arjun said time and circumstance. Of course, there's time and circumstance, but it still doesn't equal keeping an agreement. So yesterday, I thought I had a good story. It really wasn't that great of a story. and what I found was the content. The content's important, right? Keeping an agreement is important because it builds trust in relationships. not keeping an agreement almost always deteriorates trust, no matter how small it is. It's our word. And then I said something to you and I didn't follow through. Okay, so then the value of the word is less. And so what happened with me was that I was visiting a friend, and we had planned it for a while. He's a very, very busy guy. He's a police officer and he's on a SWAT team. He's just like this very busy, full-on kind of guy, a lot going on in his life. And we wanted to connect for a while. And so we finally created this time. And I was like, somehow or other, I was running some errands. And so a little bit, I was like 10 minutes late to him. And I told him like I, wanted to spend a certain amount of time with him. And so then I knew like, this is going to run late. We had something planned. I'm not going to be able to make it by that time. So I made the choice to just tell Diana, I'm not going to make it. And so I'm not going to make it by the time I agreed to. And I thought that, not having seen a friend in a long time, et cetera, the story, et cetera. But what came up is, so there's the content, there's the story. But what came up for me, which I just was like, like praying this morning and just kind of reflecting on in my morning after it came up was that, Diana said, hey, like, let's just exercise, going through these 5 steps. Let's exercise you accepting responsibility for this and acknowledging that, hey, you cut into some time that I had that I was trying to do something else. Let's just go through that process. And I was finding it very difficult to go through that process. I was finding it difficult because I have a false ego. I was finding it difficult because I felt like, man, I'm like a great guy, like, sorry, like, I'm pretty awesome, like I show up 95%. I'm like an A+ student, I'm like, okay, here's this one time, I'm 15 minutes late. Like, God, like, why you got to be so hard on, I'm creating this whole story of my own value, right? I'm creating this whole story, this whole drama around my own value, where all I need to do is just accept responsibility. All I need to do is just acknowledge that I broke an agreement, and that to some degree that, I chose myself over her, over another person, over keeping that agreement. And I just was noticing the false ego is so entrenched that like, it's like my value is being questioned here, like I'm a man of integrity. My integrity is being questioned. Like, this is not okay, like I'm on time 95% of the time. How is it such a big deal? So I'm going through this internal drama, the process to kind of walk through accepting responsibility, acknowledging that I may have, caused some harm, even if it was a slight harm, apologizing, seeing how to make amends, and that the person feels understood, the person feels cared for. That my false ego is having a very, very difficult time expressing that and sharing that this morning. And so in our prayer today, there are those moments. So I know that this is something that, and we were able to move through it. We were able to move through it in a dynamic way, but it really took me just recognizing that, whatever it is that's going to stop me from being in a space of understanding, like St. Francis talks about, whatever it is that's going to stop me from like looking to understand the other person rather than to be understood, that my false ego, right? If I'm not able to be in that space of really being there for another person, what to speak of a person that is proven their love and their affection and their kindness and their generosity, I'm not able to do that, then it's just a question of my false ego getting an opportunity in that moment to be, massaged out of my consciousness. It's like, hey, it's coming up right now. You really want to be heard. You really want to be understood. You really want this person to see you. And what is that? Like, that's just getting in the way of understanding. That's just getting in the way of serving. That's getting in the way of showing up and being available. And immediately it's like, okay, you take the deep breath. Okay, false ego. Okay, let's go through that. Let's walk through that purification. Let's walk through that humility of putting the other person first, And immediately what it had, it's like the effect that it had on my consciousness was like, man, I no longer felt the need to be understood. I no longer felt like this pressing need of being misunderstood and needing to prove myself and needing to be seen in a certain light. So this is, for every individual story or every individual broken agreement, there's going to be general principles, and this is a specific story. And so there's going to be specific stories for us how we navigate that. But this was it was a powerful lesson for me this morning, and
Wow.
getting that opportunity, like every moment in my life when I'm not willing to love, when I'm not willing to see, the beauty in another person, even if they're suffering or even if they're vomiting out, their toxicity, whatever it is, I'm not willing to see that. That's just that part of my false ego. That's that part of my false ego that still needs to be exercised, that still needs to be purified so that I can love purely. And so I got a great opportunity to do that this morning and share it with you guys. I'm an open book, guys.
That all happened before the podcast?
It all happened before the podcast. Yeah. And then Vira and I, we went on a nice walk through the forest and, hung out with the cardinals and the birds. And
My wife is listening and wanting to make sure I'm taking notes, and so I am paying attention. I am paying attention. I got it. Yes.
Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable. I appreciate it. I think that yeah, I was talking with a friend yesterday also, just something. It was like a work thing, a service thing, and there was a couple of us involved, and somebody was just mentioning a frustration that they were having in their service, and pointing out something that they wanted somebody else to take care of without getting into the details or naming people. But somebody just felt so attacked, and I feel like I'm being accused of being a liar and I'm out of integrity, and they're like, my body, I physically feel ill as a result of just hearing this. And it's like, because it's like, what are you hearing? And it's like, I'm hearing I'm a piece of crap, I'm a liar, I'm cheating everybody, you know what I mean? It's like we take this thing and we associate it with this huge negative attack on ourselves. Like, it's like getting defensive, right? What does defensive imply? Getting defensive means I am getting attacked. I defend because I'm getting attacked. And it's like, am I really being attacked right now? If I can pause and just be like, am I really being attacked right now? Or is it just like, can it be that objective of like, oh, I said I was going to do this, I didn't do this, I'm sorry. Doesn't mean you're not an A+ guy, because you are an A+ guy.
Well, that was the thing, right? It's amazing. It's like, I want to be seen so much, right? That I'm ready to just go into the most insane dysfunction because I don't see myself. I don't accept myself. I'm not seeing myself. I'm seeing that false ego. I'm identifying with that false ego. And now you've got to see me for who I am. You've got to see me. And I was like, no. Like, let's stop it right there. I need to see me. That's my responsibility, And if I'm able to see myself and to say, hey, I know that I'm a person of integrity. I know that every moment I'm gonna do the best I can. I know I'm not gonna be perfect. I'm imperfectly perfect. I know I'm gonna make mistakes in life. I'm gonna do everything I can to make it better. I'm gonna do that. That's because that's who I am. And if I know that and I see that, then somebody could say, you are a piece of crap. You know what? You didn't show up. You don't care about me. I know I care about you. I know I'm not a piece of crap. And it may not feel good, but like, I know thyself. I know myself. And that from that platform, yes, let me understand, let me love, let me listen, let me be there, let me hold space, whatever it may be.
Yeah. I'm seeing all the men on the chat board are being like, yep, I did that yesterday. Guilty. Yes. And all the women are like, and all the women on the chat board are like, I need to get my husband in here. AJ said he had to switch to headphones so that his wife wouldn't be hearing this conversation. So
yeah.
So how did it? So are you guys good now?
AJ. Oh yeah, yes, we're good. We're good, and that's the beauty, right? It's like, okay, once and if the false ego doesn't get out of the way, this is the amazing thing, right? This is the amazing thing, is that from a small broken agreement, we could see that that's what wars are started with oftentimes. From a small broken agreement, we can see that that's what breaks up a marriage. From a small broken agreement, we can see that friends become enemies, you know, and that if we don't address small broken agreements, if we don't use them as an opportunity to step deeper into our relationship, to resolve them, to use them as an opportunity to humble ourselves, to purify our consciousness, then they turn into something worse and worse. And I could see that. It's amazing, right? If the false ego is not willing, if my false ego, right, it's amazing. It's amazing that I can, you know, Krishna, I feel like just kind of shows, give these little glimpses, is that if you want to live by your false ego, if you want to live a life of being understood rather than understanding, this is the beginning of the end of your marriage. You know?
Dun, dun, dun.
If you want to live your life from the place of being understood rather than being understood, all it takes, right, is that keeps building, and then it goes from 10% to 20 to 50, and then all of a sudden it's like, we're right all the time. And if anybody's got a problem, they got a problem with you, then you know what? Get lost, right? It comes to that stage. I keep letting my false ego run the show. I'm going to push somebody out the door because I'm so self-centered at a certain point, you know, that I can't get into that space. And so to be able to see that, I feel like Krishna gives that glimpse. It's like that's the seed of destruction, right? That's the seed, you know, that of anger, right? That's a seed of putting myself in the center. That's a seed of, you know, all those qualities that ruin our life, ruin our relationships. Totally. And to catch it on the onset, and if we haven't caught it on the onset, to be able to come back into a space with any friend, any partner, any coworker, whoever it may be, to be like, hey, look, there's been some broken agreements, you know, and I know that there's some resentment and there's some stuff that's built up, and I don't want to live my life. I don't want to live my life through a filter of resentment and anger and jockeying for position and playing games and trying to position myself. And, you know, now you're late, now I'm going to be late. It's like, I don't want to live that life. I have no interest. I don't want to live that life. I want to live a life of abundance, of gratitude, of love, of transformation, of humility, of grace. That's the life I want to live. And so if that's true, if I really want to live that life, then the way that I approach a broken agreement is going to be as an opportunity for a person to be understood, loved, cared for, and for me to have the opportunity to humble myself, to accept myself, to see myself for who I am in integrity, and to let that experience of a broken agreement and stepping into that to resolve it, to let that experience be a testament of my own character. And so I struggle with it this morning, but, you know, to be able, I thank Deanna for her patience. You know, she's very patient with me this morning, and a lot of you mamas out there and wives out there and guys out there also exercising that patience is a divine quality, you know. So
I'm so glad you're sharing this, and I totally appreciate it. And I think that as soon as my partner starts implementing these things, my relationship will be better. So as soon as my partner starts doing it.
Yes, exactly. You got the lesson, Doyal. You got it. You nailed it on the head. No, he didn't get it, guys. You heard him, right? He did not.
Everyone's like, yeah. Wait a second. What?
As soon as my partner becomes a pure saint and always understands everything I do with pure unconditional love, then things are going to get dynamic. No, that's our work, right? That's what we want to. We want to create that challenge for ourselves, and we want to experience that. We want to experience that transformation, right?
Yeah. And what I appreciate so much in it, and what I appreciate so much what I'm hearing Diana did for you guys in your relationship, is that sometimes it's very difficult. It could be challenging because let's say for example, there are times when I don't feel understood, right? Or like for example, Diana had the opportunity to just say, hey, let it go, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, Vera broke this agreement and I'm not going to get into it. And just I should just be a person who just gets over it. You know what I mean? Like she needed to be understood in that instance, and she needed something to be understood by both of you, that an agreement was broken, and she knew that, like, hey, if I don't bring this up, it's going to turn into something much bigger than it needs to. And totally. I don't want that to I value because what I don't hear, and just knowing her, knowing you guys, I don't hear her coming in and saying, like, I need to be right and like sticking it to you. She's like, for the sake of our like, I don't want there to be a crack in our foundation. And so I'm not going to let this turn into something bigger than it needs to. So for the sake of us, I'm going to bring this up so that we can rectify it and move beyond it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's also important for us. Like, if there is something that we're holding on to, if we're at because if what's super important, if we're feeling there's an imbalance, that's also something that needs to be addressed. If
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the one that's always like having to apologize and this and that, but the other person isn't also kind of pulling their weight in a sense, it's going to also doom an end in a relationship, because it's like, what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to internally distance myself. I'm going to start to internally distance okay, I'm going through all of the motions. I'm showing up, I'm doing the agreements, I'm keeping my agreement, all this stuff. But internally I've emotionally distanced myself because I realize there's nothing for me here. That I'm just giving, but this other person is not, I'm not feeling that affection, you know? And so what I think is that it's super important for us to also recognize what we can offer and what we can offer and what we need. Like somebody wrote in the chat board mentioned, like, you know, growing up in my family, we all had to understand my father, but there's no space for us to be understood. So I have a hard time now setting my boundaries and making myself understood. So not how to reconcile this. You know what I mean? Does it mean that I just become a doormat? Does it mean that it's like I don't need to be seen or understood in any ways? And I think that in order for us, you know, to be, it's like there's a liberating feeling when I'm able to seek to understand rather than be understood. But if I don't feel like I'm ever seen in a relationship, that also doesn't work. That also doesn't work.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
how do you reconcile that sense of seeking to understand rather than understood, but at the same time needing to also be seen and reciprocated with in a relationship?
It's a great question, and it's something that starts with Deanna and I talk about it in the podcast quite a bit. Is it starts with really being conscious about sharing those values, being conscious about sharing that vision, you know. And oftentimes it's just unconscious. Like, it's really important for me, you know, to have space where if something comes up, that I have a partner that could listen, you know, and that we could work toward that. We could work toward understanding each other, which builds greater trust and builds a greater vulnerability and build, you know, okay, if I'm more vulnerable and I'm more trusting, I'm going to be more willing to reciprocate and to love and to serve this person with all my heart and soul. And so that it starts with that vision, and then the values, the principles, and the way of interacting with each other that we have clear agreements around. You know, we could see behavior that really supports that vision. We could see behavior that really deteriorates that vision. And so I think it's just asking the question, right? You know, oftentimes we're in relationships, we never ask that question. Like, is this important to you? You know, is this what you value? Do you see the benefit of this quality of interacting in a relationship? And sometimes people are like, don't really care about that. You know, like that's not my agenda. My agenda is that you serve me, you know, and it's like, whoa, okay, wow. I unconsciously thought this was something that it wasn't. And so, you know, if it's unconscious and we're not clear and we haven't talked about really what are the vision and the values and the quality we want to live our relationship by, then we can't expect it. You know, it isn't something to just be expected. It's something to be conscious about and dialogue about and again and again and again. I mean, Deanna and I, we talk about the same things again and again and again. We have our weekly get together and talk about the last week and how did it go, and you know, what went well, what didn't go well. It takes that, you know, like anything, like an organization, Doyle, you know more than anybody, you know, doing so much to run the Bhakti Center over the last 5-10 years, you know, 10 years plus, that if we're not working on it, if we're not coming back with a team and clearing, you know, broken agreements and then, you know, and getting clear about really where we're going, and the thing starts to kind of, we lose track, right? We lose sight. So relationships the same way.
Yeah. Well,
It's Damodar saying on here, it's a practice, right? And if somebody, Andy Stanley says, it's just one last little thing, is that I love the Christian preacher Andy Stanley. I got to listen to his podcast every now and then, and him talking about relationship is he said, let's be selfless. Like, that's our vision. If that's really our vision, let's be that in a relationship, and whether it's a friendship, a family, whatever it may be, and we will see, you know, after a very short period of time, if somebody doesn't want to follow suit. If somebody's not interested in that, they're just taking and taking and taking advantage and taking advantage. And then we have to ask ourselves that question: is this a person that God really wants to help me to grow in my life and to transform my heart and to come closer to him? So,
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's what this practice of seeking to understand rather than be understood. In some ways, we first have to see how it's something for ourselves.
mm,
That this sense of like going around with this empty bucket of like see me, understand me, understand me, understand me. We're putting ourselves in the place of we're setting ourselves up for disappointment and frustration.
mm,
And second of all, I think it's also these acts are investments in relationships.
mm-hmm,
And I think it very much warrants us to ask, which relationships am I investing in?
mm-hmm,
And I think it's important for us to recognize that we should be investing in relationships where we know that there's also, there has to be that reciprocal angle. And somebody was asking this question, what if it's in relationships where you can't, you said somebody wrote, what if the other person doesn't share your vision, but you cannot leave the relationship or environment? um, you know, leaving is can be such a charged word, but you can create boundaries. You know what I mean? You may not like leaving might just be, that's me, leave Scorpio, cut you out of our life. You know what I mean? Like there's this one, there was this meme of like this guy cutting hair and it's like snipping this hair and the meme is like, you can't just cut people out of your life. And then the meme is like this guy just snip, me snip, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like, sometimes you can cut people out of your life, but sometimes it might just mean you need to create a boundary around that. You know what I mean? You might not mean that, you have to determine to what extent you engage in that relationship. And so I think that for me, where it's bringing back and how I think that the revolutionary idea, the revolution of prayer is that, there is like, for example, I think we bring this principle to our relationship with God and to our relationship with Krishna. You know what I mean? Where we feel that at the end of the day, like I'm not feeling seen or understood by a higher power.
mm-hmm.
And so I can't, all these chats going on, all these goofy chats going on. You guys are smiling and laughing.
Everyone's
I have
having a
I
blast.
have a Scorpio in my chart. Oh, the doggy woke up. Nope, doggy down. My mom is one. Scorpios. Scorpios are intense, man. I've got all the intense aspects in my chart. Sorry, honey. My wife got all the intense aspects. Scorpio, all these other things. And so, but anyways, I lost my train of thought. I think,
Yeah, we're talking about general principles, and you were saying you were bringing it back to prayer and how we can through this we can see the opportunity. That's kind of where that's what I heard.
I'm not feeling understood in this moment.
I was trying to help you catch your wind. Yeah,
you know what?
Go for it.
What what's also interesting? Radnat Swami said, I had the blessing. Radnat Swami was at our wedding with Rasika and I, and he said the three most important little words in relationship are forget about it. And I think that also sometimes there's things that we attach ourselves to a principle that are not as big of a deal as we think they are sometimes. You know what I mean? And so to be able to turn it off and laugh and recognize, like, what am I really trying to prove and do here? I'm trying to squeeze this person. Ultimately, it boils down to I'm expecting you to fill something in my heart that you're never designed to fill. And we're just squeezing it out of each other. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's an act of courage to release the other person from that expectation. And conversely, it's an act of courage for us to release ourselves from that expectation towards another person. To think like, oh, I have to stay here and slug it out because it's my duty to this person. But it's like, no, I'm not meant to fill your cup. That's not my job description. That's not who I am. That's not what I meant. For me to relieve that. So sometimes it's feel like I'm letting another person down. I'm disappointing. It's like, yeah, I'm going to let people down and they're going to let me down because as long as I expect you to play God in my life, and as long as you're expecting me to play God in your life, we're going to be letting each other down left and right, And so I think that to release that pressure from ourselves and other people, we're able to like let things go a little bit more easily. You know what I mean? And it forces us to turn our back towards to turn away from our back, which is facing the sun, and to find that, to seek that understanding and connect there. So anyways,
Amen,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, and that's where I'm bringing us to as we wrap up our time here today. And so thank you also. There's a lot of comments that are being listed here in the chat boards. Please write to us at prayerrevolution.org. Write to us at, what is it? Prayer Revolution at bhakticenter.org. Prayer Revolution. Someone type that in the chat board. Prayer Revolution at bhakticenter.org. You can write to us. We'd love to hear your questions. If there's something that we didn't get to address here on the show today, you'd like to hear us talk about in a future episode. And we would love to stay in touch, hear your questions, get your feedbacks. We love you guys. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or any of our podcast platforms, please leave us a 5-star review. Let us know how you're thinking, how you're feeling. We love to hear from you. And anything else here that people need to hear?
Yeah, well, we're talking about relationships today, and if you guys have questions, I saw there was a lot of DMs, a lot of insights, questions, different things were coming in, different points were coming in. Please DM me at Vira Tanzi, because Deanna and I, every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, we have a podcast dedicated to bringing these type of principles and bringing these type of concepts into our relationship. And so that we're here to serve you guys. And so any insights you may have, DM me, or any questions you may have, and we'll also be able to talk about it in that a little bit more detail.
Yeah, don't message us. Just write to Vira directly.
For relationships specifically.
For relationships. So people asking, can we hear those on SoundCloud? Yes, they're on SoundCloud. And is it just for couples? No, it's for everybody. Everybody's welcome. Singles, couples, relationships, everybody. Just come on in. Just join the party. 10 a.m. every Wednesday morning. And it's also, they're on SoundCloud too. What's the name of it? How can people find it on SoundCloud? How can people find you?
Spiritual Relationships on Bhakti Center SoundCloud.
Spiritual Relationships Bhakti Center SoundCloud. Love you guys so much. Please just be good, be well, be happy. Love you guys. See you next time, everybody.
Hey
guys, thanks so much, Dr. Louis. Thank you, Vivi, so much. Good to see you. Brian, Nicole, Julie, Aditi. Love you guys. So glad you're here. Take care. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.